Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin. As the days went by, Mia tried to push the awkwardness out of her mind, but every time she saw Jack in the hallway, her heart raced. The memories of their past together flooded back, but she kept her distance, hoping he would never recognize her. Yet, she knew it was only a matter of time before their paths would cross again. The town was small, and they were bound to encounter each other more often. The tension between them was palpable, though neither of them acknowledged it. One evening, Mia was returning home after a long shift at the local cafe. She was exhausted, her feet aching from hours of standing, but she still couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As she turned the corner, she saw Jack standing by his apartment door, his back facing her. He was holding a set of keys, his fingers tracing the edge of a photo in his hand. For a moment, she thought about turning back, avoiding him completely, but something made her stop. "Mia?" His voice was soft, hesitant, as if he wasn't sure whether he was imagining things. She froze. How could he possibly remember her after all this time? His voice had changed, more serious now, but there was still a familiar warmth in it. She turned slowly, trying to keep her composure. "Jack," she whispered, as though speaking his name was a foreign thing now. The tension between them grew thicker. He stepped forward, his eyes scanning her face, searching for any trace of the woman he once knew. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" Jack's voice was a bit strained, as though he was trying to piece together memories that didn't quite make sense anymore. Mia nodded, unable to speak for a moment. She felt as though the ground beneath her was slipping away, but she refused to show any vulnerability. "Yeah. A long time," Mia replied, her words coming out cold. She didn't want him to see how much she had been affected by their past. "You've changed," she added, almost as an afterthought. Jack gave her a faint smile, his eyes narrowing as if he were about to say something, but then he hesitated. "I've changed, but not in the ways you might think," he said, his gaze drifting to the photo in his hand. Mia's curiosity piqued, but she quickly pushed it down. She didn't want to know anything more about his life now. The man she once loved was gone. All that was left was the man standing in front of her, a stranger. "I guess we both moved on," Mia said, trying to sound casual, even though she could feel the tightness in her chest. Jack looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Yeah," he replied quietly, then added, "but it's hard to move on when the past keeps following you." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, Mia thought he might be referring to her. She swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. She had spent so much time running from the past, but now, it was as if it had found her once again. "I'm just trying to move forward," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. He wasn't the same man she had known, and yet there was something in his eyes that reminded her of the old Jack, the one who used to care for her. "I get it," Jack replied. "But Mia, I hope you know that I never meant to hurt you." The words struck her like a blow. She had spent so long trying to forget him, trying to erase the pain he had caused, but now, hearing him speak like this, she felt everything rush back to the surface. She had never truly gotten over him, and she realized, in that moment, that maybe she wasn't as healed as she thought. "It's in the past," Mia said quickly, her voice trembling. She turned to walk away, but before she could take a step, Jack called out to her. "Mia, wait." She stopped, her back still turned to him. She could feel his eyes on her, and for the first time in a long while, she wasn't sure how to respond. She wanted to keep walking, to run away from the past, but something deep inside her told her that it wasn't that simple. "Can we talk?" Jack asked, his tone softer now, almost pleading. Mia hesitated for a moment, then slowly turned to face him. "We've talked enough," she said, trying to sound firm, but the words didn't come out right. "I don't think there's anything left to say." Jack didn't move, his expression serious. "I think there is," he said quietly. "I think we owe it to ourselves to at least hear each other out." Mia felt her heart race again. She wanted to say no, to tell him that she couldn't do this, that she couldn't reopen old wounds. But she found herself nodding slowly. "Okay," she said, her voice barely audible. "Okay, let's talk." As she followed him into his apartment, she couldn't help but wonder if this was the moment that would change everything. Would they find closure? Or would this just be another chapter in their unfinished story? The door closed behind them, and for the first time since they had met again, Mia felt a small glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could start over. The door clicked shut behind Mia as she stepped into Jack's apartment. The room was sparsely decorated, with only a few personal touches scattered around a couple of framed photos, a well-worn couch, and a desk covered with papers. It was different from the luxurious space he once lived in when they were together, a far cry from the penthouse that had come to represent everything Mia thought she wanted. This new version of Jack was a man she didn't recognize, and yet, in a way, he still felt like the man she had loved. Jack motioned for her to sit on the couch, but Mia hesitated, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag. She wasn't sure what she was doing here, or why she had agreed to this conversation. She had spent years trying to forget him, to erase him from her life. But now, sitting here, with him only a few feet away, all the old feelings came rushing back. She could feel the heat in her cheeks, the familiar flutter in her chest. She had never been good at hiding her emotions around Jack. He sat down across from her, his posture tense, as if he was bracing for something. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was thick, heavy with the weight of years that had passed. Finally, Jack broke the silence, his voice low and steady. "Mia," he began, his gaze fixed on her. "I know we didn't leave things on the best note. I know I hurt you, and for that, I'm sorry. But there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago." Mia looked at him, her heart beating faster. She had always hated the silence that followed his apologies because it was never enough. He could apologize all he wanted, but it didn't change the fact that he had left her. That he had walked away without a second thought. Still, she found herself nodding, urging him to continue. When I made the decision to move on with my life, I thought I was doing what was best for both of us," Jack continued, his eyes searching hers. "I thought you would be better off without me. I thought you deserved someone who could give you everything I couldn't. You thought you were doing what was best for me?" Mia repeated, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and hurt. "Jack, you didn't even ask me what I wanted. You just made the decision for both of us. You walked away without even considering that maybe I still wanted you." The words slipped out before Mia could stop them, and for a moment, she felt exposed. Vulnerable. She had always been the strong one, the one who held everything together. But now, in front of him, it was hard to keep up the facade. She had spent so much time convincing herself that she was better off without him, but sitting here now, with him so close, she realized how much she had been lying to herself. Jack didn't say anything for a long moment. He simply stared at her, as if her words had hit him harder than he expected. Then, slowly, he leaned forward, his voice quieter now. "I didn't know," he said softly. "I didn't know you still felt that way. I thought I was doing the right thing, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was too afraid to admit that I still cared." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say that. She hadn't expected him to admit, even to himself, that he still had feelings for her. It was both a relief and a new kind of pain, because now, she wasn't sure what to do with this truth. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You left me when I needed you the most. You walked away without looking back, and it broke me. I've spent years trying to move on, trying to build a life without you, and I did it. I built something for myself. But now, sitting here, I don't know what to feel." Jack's eyes softened, and for the first time, Mia saw the vulnerability in him. The same vulnerability she used to love. He reached out, his hand hovering in the space between them, unsure of whether to cross the line. "Mia, I can't change the past," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can try to make things right. I can try to show you that I'm not the same man I was. I want to prove to you that I'm not running anymore." For a moment, Mia sat in silence, the weight of his words pressing down on her. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that this time, things would be different. But she wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if she could let him back into her life, back into her heart, after everything that had happened. "I don't know, Jack," she whispered. "I don't know if I can trust you again." Jack nodded, his expression resigned, but there was a quiet determination in his eyes. "I understand. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." The room felt smaller now, the distance between them closing with every word spoken. Mia didn't know what the future held, but in this moment, for the first time in a long time, she felt the possibility of something new. A second chance. "I don't know where this will go," Mia said quietly. "But maybe we can start again." Jack's eyes lit up with hope, and for the first time since their reunion, Mia felt a small spark of hope, too. Maybe they could rebuild what they had. Maybe it wasn't too late. As the days passed, Mia found herself caught between the hope of a second chance and the fear of repeating the past. Jack had promised he was different now, but old wounds don't heal easily. Every time they spoke, she felt a tug in her heart. Part of her wanted to believe him, to believe that things could be different this time, but another part of her feared that she was setting herself up for disappointment. She had been down this road before, and the pain of losing him once was still fresh in her mind. One evening, after a long day of work, Mia was sitting at her small kitchen table, staring at the cup of tea in front of her. The rain tapped softly against the window, and she couldn't shake the thought that she was at a crossroads. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced down to see a message from Jack. It was simple, just a time for them to meet up the next day, but something in the message made her pause. There was a vulnerability in his words, an invitation to step into the unknown again. She had been avoiding him a little, not because she didn't want to see him, but because she was scared of what would happen if they picked up where they left off. She wasn't sure if she could risk her heart again, especially after everything they had been through. But deep down, she knew she was still drawn to him. There was something about Jack that she couldn't ignore. She had tried, but it was impossible. The next day, she agreed to meet him. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew that it was time to face whatever it was that had been left unresolved between them. Jack was waiting for her at a quiet cafe in the corner of the city, a place they used to go when they were together. It felt surreal walking into the cafe, as if time had stood still in this place. The familiar smells of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods filled the air, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. When Mia entered, Jack looked up, his face softening the moment he saw her. He stood up, almost as if on instinct, but then hesitated, unsure of how to act around her now. She wasn't the same woman he had known. He could see it in her eyes, the walls she had built up, the distance she had created. But there was also a flicker of something familiar, something that reminded him of the woman he had once loved. "Mia," he said, his voice a little rough, but warm. "Thank you for coming." She smiled, though it was tight, guarded. "I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I'm here." Jack smiled faintly. "I know. It's been a long road to get to this point." They both sat down, the awkwardness hanging in the air for a moment before Jack broke the silence. "I've been thinking a lot," he said, his tone serious. "About what we had. About what I did. And I've realized that I didn't just hurt you. I hurt myself, too." Mia looked at him, her fingers wrapped around her coffee cup, the heat from the mug warming her hands. "You don't have to apologize again," she said quietly. "I've heard it before." Jack nodded. "I know. But this time, I need you to hear me." His eyes softened as he continued, "I wasn't ready before. I was afraid of what loving you would mean. I was afraid of losing everything I had worked for. But now I realize that all of that means nothing without you. I should have never let you go." The sincerity in his words caught Mia off guard. For a moment, she wanted to reach out to him, to let him in. But the fear, the pain, still held her back. "I don't know if I can believe you," Mia said, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I can trust that you won't walk away again." Jack leaned forward, his eyes intense. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. "I'm here now, and I want to try again. I know it's going to take time, and I'm willing to be patient. I'm not asking for you to forgive me right away. But I want to show you that I can be the man you deserve. Mia looked at him, searching his face for any sign of deceit, but all she saw was honesty. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, this was worth fighting for. I'm scared, Jack, she admitted, her voice shaky. I'm scared of letting you in again, of letting myself love you again. But I'm tired of running from what we had. I don't know what this will look like, but I'm willing to try. Maybe we can start over. Jack's expression softened, a smile tugging at his lips. Starting over sounds good to me, he said gently. And for the first time, Mia felt like they were finally on the same page. It wouldn't be easy, and there were no guarantees, but she was willing to take that first step toward healing. Together. As they sat there, talking about everything and nothing, Mia realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about finding someone who was willing to try, no matter how many times they stumbled along the way. The following weeks felt like a delicate dance between hope and hesitation. Mia and Jack had decided to take things slow, to rebuild the trust they had lost. Each day was a step toward healing, but it wasn't always easy. The past still lingered in the corners of their interactions, and sometimes, the fear of falling back into old patterns crept into their minds. They spent time together, just the two of them, but this time, it was different. There were no expectations, no pressure to rush back into the relationship they once had. They started with small gestures: a coffee at the cafe, a walk in the park, casual conversations that didn't feel forced. But every now and then, Mia would catch Jack looking at her with that familiar longing in his eyes, and she would remember the man he used to be. The man who had left her without a word. One evening, Jack invited her to dinner. It was a simple gesture, nothing extravagant, but it felt like something more. They had agreed to take things slowly, but in that moment, Mia realized she wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. Was she ready to forgive him? Could she really move past everything? Or was this just a fleeting moment of hope, one that would crumble like all the others before it? When Mia arrived at Jack's apartment, the soft glow of candlelight filled the room, casting long shadows on the walls. Jack had cooked dinner, his specialty, a dish they had shared many times before, back when things were easier, when love felt simple. He stood by the stove, stirring a pot with a smile on his face. He looked content, and for a moment, Mia wondered if he really had changed. It smells amazing, Mia said softly as she walked in, taking in the scent of the food. Jack turned to her, his smile widening. I'm glad you think so, he said, setting the spoon down. I figured it was time to cook something special. For us. There was something in his words that made Mia's chest tighten. Was this a new beginning, or was it just another attempt to make up for the mistakes of the past? She wasn't sure. But she couldn't deny that, in that moment, she felt something stir within her, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. They sat down to eat, and for a while, there was only the sound of utensils clinking against plates, the quiet rhythm of two people who were learning to be in each other's company again. It felt natural, comfortable, but there was an underlying tension that neither of them addressed. They both knew it was there, hanging in the air, unspoken. Finally, Jack broke the silence. Mia, I need to tell you something, he said, his voice suddenly serious. Mia looked up at him, her heart skipping a beat. She wasn't sure she was ready for another confession, but she could tell from the look in his eyes that this was important. What is it? She asked, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. Jack took a deep breath, as though he was gathering his thoughts, and then he spoke, his words measured and careful. I know we've been taking things slow, and I understand why you need time. But I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I want to build a future with you, Mia. I want to show you that I can be the man you deserve. The man I should have been all along. Mia felt her breath catch in her throat. She wasn't expecting this. She had hoped for time, for space, to figure things out. But hearing him say this, with such certainty, made her heart ache. Could she really open herself up to him again? Could she trust him? The question lingered in her mind, but for a moment, she felt a glimmer of hope. Jack, she began, her voice soft, I'm not sure if I'm ready. I'm not sure if I can ever forget what happened. But I do know that I care about you. I don't want to lose you again. I don't know where this will go, but I'm willing to try. Jack's expression softened, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her, but she didn't pull away. "We'll take it one day at a time," he said, his voice tender. "No pressure, no rush. Just us, figuring it out." Mia nodded, her eyes meeting his. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like there was a chance, maybe not for the perfect love story she had once imagined, but for something real, something that could grow if they were both willing to nurture it. As they finished dinner, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. They laughed, shared stories, and for a while, it felt like they were two people who had never been apart. But deep down, Mia knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust had to be rebuilt, and time would be the only thing that could heal the wounds of the past. For now, though, she was willing to take that first step forward. Maybe love wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was about finding someone who was willing to try, even when the odds seemed stacked against them. And maybe, just maybe, they could have a future together. As Mia left Jack's apartment that night, she couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. The journey ahead would be difficult, but it was a journey she was now willing to take together. Over the next few weeks, Mia and Jack continued their quiet journey of rebuilding their connection. They were taking it slow, and though Mia was still hesitant, she could feel the walls she had carefully built around her beginning to crack. Jack had been patient, never rushing her, always showing up in ways that felt real and sincere. They spent time together in the small moments, the kind that often went unnoticed but were becoming the foundation of something new. Dinner at her apartment, long walks through the park, late-night talks where they shared stories about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. One evening, Jack invited Mia to a small art gallery opening. It was a casual affair, nothing extravagant, but for Mia, it felt like a big step. She hadn't gone to a social event like this in a long time, especially now with Jack. She had spent so much time running away from their past that even small gestures felt like monumental shifts. As they walked into the gallery, she could feel her nerves start to settle, the familiar hum of excitement mixed with a tinge of uncertainty. Jack, sensing her unease, smiled at her gently. "You look beautiful, Mia," he said softly, his voice warm. "This is a step forward, together." Mia smiled back, though there was a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. "I'm not sure about this," she confessed. "It feels like we're moving forward, but I don't know if I'm ready for all of it." Jack took her hand in his grip reassuring but not forceful. "We're not rushing anything, Mia. We'll take this one step at a time, just like we've been doing." The gallery was filled with local artists and friends, but to Mia, the space felt almost too big. She couldn't stop thinking about the eyes that would be on them, the unspoken questions from people who knew them from before, who might wonder what had brought them back together. But as the night went on, and she found herself enjoying the art, the people, and Jack's quiet presence beside her, her anxieties started to fade. Jack's hand never left hers. He introduced her to a few of his friends, and Mia did her best to engage, her nerves calming as she remembered why she had agreed to come, because she was taking this chance for herself as much as for him. She could see that Jack was trying, he was putting in the effort, the care, to make things right. And for the first time, Mia felt the stirrings of hope deep inside her heart. As they moved through the gallery, they came to a painting that caught Mia's eye. It was a simple piece, a watercolor of a sunset over a calm lake, the colors blending together in soft, flowing strokes. She stood in front of it, captivated by the sense of peace it brought her. Jack watched her for a moment, before speaking. "That one always gets me, too," he said quietly. "There's something about the calmness in it, the stillness. It's like the world is at rest, even if for just a moment." Mia turned to him, her gaze softening as she met his eyes. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just like the way you've been with me, quiet, steady, never rushing." Jack's eyes softened, and he stepped a little closer. "I'm not perfect, Mia. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Her breath caught in her throat. He had said that before, but this time, it felt different. The sincerity in his voice, the way he looked at her, it was as if he was offering her not just words, but a real promise. A promise of staying, of being present, no matter what. For a long moment, they simply stood there, in front of the painting, their hands still intertwined. Mia didn't need grand gestures or declarations of love. What she needed was the quiet, steady presence Jack was offering. She realized that this was all she had ever wanted, someone who would stand by her, who would listen, who would show up. Finally, she broke the silence. "I'm starting to believe you," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm starting to believe that maybe we can really do this." Jack smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that made his eyes light up. "One day at a time," he said, squeezing her hand. "We'll do this together." And in that moment, Mia felt a quiet sense of peace. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that for the first time in a long time, she was willing to take it on step by step, with Jack by her side. As the evening drew to a close, they left the gallery together, walking side by side under the starry night sky. Mia couldn't help but feel that, just maybe, this was the beginning of something beautiful, something real. As the weeks passed, Mia and Jack continued to grow closer. The small moments they shared became the foundation of something real, something that neither of them had expected. Their connection, though fragile at times, was built on trust and understanding, things that had been missing the first time around. For the first time in a long while, Mia began to feel like she was allowing herself to trust again. Jack had been patient, understanding her hesitations, never pushing her too hard. It felt different this time. There was no rush, no pressure to return to what they had before. Instead, they were building something new, something better. One evening, as they sat on Mia's couch, sipping wine and talking about everything and nothing, Jack leaned back and looked at her with a soft smile. "You know, Mia, I've been thinking," he began, his tone thoughtful. It feels right. I know it's been a long journey to get here, but I really think we're headed somewhere good." Mia looked at him, her heart fluttering slightly at his words. She had felt the same way, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel even more real. "I feel it too," she replied, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "I'm scared, though. I keep wondering if I'm making the right choice. If I'm ready to give this another shot." Jack reached across the couch and gently took her hand in his touch steady and warm. "Mia, you don't have to be ready all at once. We'll figure it out, day by day. I'm not going anywhere." His words, simple as they were, reassured her in a way nothing else could. She could feel the sincerity in his voice, and it made her believe in what they were building together. They sat in silence for a few moments, just holding hands, the quiet comfort of each other's presence speaking louder than any words could. Mia's mind wandered for a moment, thinking back to everything they had been through. The heartbreak, the confusion, the time they had spent apart. But then she thought about the man sitting next to her, the man who had stayed, who had shown up every day, not expecting anything in return. Jack wasn't the same person he had been. He had changed, just as she had. They had both learned from their mistakes, and they were both stronger for it. Finally, Jack broke the silence again. "I know we've been through a lot, and I know I hurt you. I don't expect to erase that, but I hope, at least, we can find a way forward." Mia squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with emotion. "We're already moving forward," she said softly. "And I'm willing to keep moving forward with you, Jack. It won't be easy, but we'll figure it out together." Jack smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Together," he repeated, as if savoring the word. "I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I can promise that I'll always be here. We'll take it one step at a time." For the first time in a long time, Mia felt a sense of peace wash over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that with Jack by her side, she was ready to face it. She was ready to take that next step, even if it meant walking into the unknown. As they continued to sit together, the night stretched on, filled with laughter, quiet conversation, and the simple joy of being in each other's company. Mia realized that sometimes, love wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes, love was about showing up every day, being there for each other, and trusting that, no matter what, you would be okay. And as the night came to a close, with Jack walking her to her door and giving her a gentle kiss on the forehead, Mia couldn't help but feel hopeful. The road ahead wouldn't be without its challenges, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like they were headed in the right direction. As she closed the door behind her, she leaned against it for a moment, taking a deep breath. The future was uncertain, but with Jack, she knew it was worth facing. As the weeks passed, Mia and Jack continued to build something solid, brick by brick. They had their moments of doubt, but each day, they learned to trust each other more, to let go of the ghosts of the past that had once haunted them. They shared quiet evenings at home, long walks in the park, and dinners where they could talk about everything: hopes, dreams, fears. Jack had proven himself to Mia, not through grand gestures, but through his consistency, his presence. He was here, and he was staying. One afternoon, Jack called Mia and asked if she could meet him at his office. It wasn't unusual for them to meet at random places, but there was something in his voice that made Mia pause. It was a tone she hadn't heard from him before: serious, almost urgent. She agreed, wondering what was on his mind. When Mia arrived, Jack was waiting in his office, his brow furrowed, his hands resting on the desk in front of him. He looked up when she entered and gave her a tight smile, but she could tell something was weighing on him. "Mia, thank you for coming," he said, his voice low. "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I need to talk to you about something important." Mia felt a knot form in her stomach. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Had something happened? Was this it? Was this where everything fell apart? She pushed the thought aside, focusing on Jack's words. "What is it, Jack?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "You're scaring me a little." Jack sighed and ran a hand through his hair, looking at her with a mix of frustration and vulnerability. "Mia, I know we've been taking it slow, and I know I've asked a lot of you. But I've been thinking a lot about our future. I don't want us to just be in a we'll see what happens kind of relationship. I want more than that, and I think you do too." Mia's heart raced. This was not the conversation she had been expecting. She had expected small talk, a casual date, maybe a plan for the weekend. But this was different. She could see the seriousness in Jack's eyes. He wasn't just talking about the present, he was talking about the future. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. Jack stood up and walked over to her, his movements slow, deliberate. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said before, about trusting me, about building something real. And I think I've figured it out. Mia, I want to make this official. I don't want to wait anymore. I'm ready to take the next step with you, whatever that looks like." Mia's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. "You mean?" she began, but her words trailed off as Jack nodded. "Yes," he said softly, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to be with you, Mia. I want us to have a future together. I'm asking you to trust me, to trust us. I know we've had our ups and downs, but I believe in what we have. And I want you to be a part of my life fully, completely." Mia felt a mixture of emotions flood her. Fear. Excitement. Uncertainty. She had always feared making this kind of commitment again, especially after everything that had happened between them. But as she looked into Jack's eyes, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment she allowed herself to fully open up, to let go of her fears. She took a deep breath and smiled softly. "I'm scared, Jack," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But I want this too. I want us to have a future. I'm ready to take that next step." Jack's face lit up with relief, his smile wide and genuine. He stepped forward and took her hands in his, holding them gently. "Thank you, Mia. This means everything to me." For the first time in a long time, Mia felt a sense of certainty. The fear she had been carrying around, fear of trusting, of loving again, began to fade. She knew that there would be challenges ahead, that things wouldn't always be perfect. But in that moment, with Jack's hands holding hers, she knew they were ready to face whatever came next together. As they stood there, together in the quiet of his office, Mia couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was one they would walk hand in hand. And that thought, for the first time, filled her heart with hope. The weeks that followed felt like a new chapter, one that Mia and Jack were writing together, step by step. They had both faced their fears, and now, they were learning to trust each other more deeply than ever before. The past, with its hurts and heartache, had started to fade into the distance, replaced by something stronger, something real. Every day, they built a little more of their future. Every moment they shared was another step toward healing and rediscovery. One crisp autumn morning, Jack surprised Mia with a small gesture. He asked her to meet him at the park where they had their first long walk together. It was a place they had shared quiet moments, talking about everything and nothing, just enjoying each other's company. The leaves were beginning to change, the air cool and fresh, and Mia couldn't help but smile when she saw him waiting for her on a bench near the old oak tree. "Hey," Jack greeted her, his voice soft, but there was something different in his eyes. He looked at her with a warmth that made her heart swell. "I was thinking about the first time we walked here, and how much has changed since then." Mia sat down beside him, the familiar comfort of his presence settling over her. She remembered the day all too well when everything had felt uncertain, when they had been strangers in their own relationship. But now, sitting next to him, she realized how far they had come. "Yeah, a lot has changed," Mia agreed, her voice soft. "But I think we've changed for the better." Jack nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. "I think so too. You've taught me so much about patience, about love, and about trust. I don't know where I'd be without you." The sincerity in his words made Mia's heart ache. She had once been afraid to let him in, afraid to trust him again, but now, looking at him, she knew she had made the right choice. "I never thought I'd be here again," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I thought I couldn't love you again. But I was wrong. I'm glad we're here." Jack turned to her, his expression serious but full of tenderness. "Mia, I don't need grand gestures or big promises. I just need you to know that I'm here, with you, for you. I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, Mia couldn't say anything. She didn't need to. They both understood what those words meant. In the quiet of that autumn morning, she realized that love wasn't about perfection or a perfect past. It was about choosing each other every day, about being there when it mattered most. As they sat there, side by side, Jack reached over and took her hand in his. "I know things won't always be easy," he said, his voice steady. "But as long as we're together, I believe we can handle anything." Mia squeezed his hand, feeling the strength in his words, in his touch. "I believe that too," she said, smiling up at him. "We'll make it through, together." The future no longer seemed so uncertain. For the first time in a long time, Mia felt at peace. She knew there would be challenges, but now, she knew they would face them hand in hand. The past no longer defined them, the present, and what they were building together, did. As the two of them stood up and began to walk through the park, their fingers intertwined, Mia realized that sometimes love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who will stand by your side, even when things get hard, who will keep showing up, time and time again. And with that thought in her heart, Mia knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They had found each other again, and this time, they would build the future they both deserved.